Good morning and welcome to the School of Consciousness. So, today, what we're going to be talking about is accessing higher states of consciousness. And how we're going to do that is we're going to start to look into our past and we're going to look at the things that happened in our life that may have caused us to be carrying extra baggage that we don't need to carry. Now, everyone has this baggage, so don't worry. If you do have some stuff, it's very common. Every single person in the world has got their own unique past and history, and there's always going to be some emotional stuff there for everyone. So we're going to look into what that is for you guys, because when you can identify that, that's going to be when you can resolve it. And when you can resolve it, that's when you can then move up into higher frequencies and higher states of consciousness, higher states of being. So I know those words sometimes can be a little bit confusing. Like, what does that even mean? I'm going to explain it all to you today. And I'm going to start from the beginning, right? Because the reason why we need to heal, essentially, heal our past, heal our traumas, heal the negative emotional charge that we have around certain events that may have happened to us when we were younger, is because the emotional charge, that negative emotional charge, if it goes unresolved and it stays laying dormant within us, it acts as if it's like a weight that keeps you down, right? And so it keeps you down, like bogged down into lower levels of consciousness. So, for example, maybe something unfortunate happened to you when you were younger. Maybe something happened with your parents. Maybe something happened at school. Maybe you were bullied. And these events that happen to you can cause you to feel maybe some anger or some resentment or some frustration or maybe some anxiety. There's maybe a fear of judgment from other people or a fear of failure. All these kinds of things can really like bog us down and keep us stuck and keep us not living as our authentic self, because we try to hide parts of ourself because there's a fear of like what other people might think. And that all usually stems from a need to be accepted, or a need to be cared for, or a need to be loved. And those needs are actually very fundamental, basic human needs that we all actually do need. So, what we want to do is learn how to. The analogy I'm going to use today is, you can imagine that your life is like a string, right? So, over here is the start of your life, and over here is the present moment and the now. So here we are in the now. This is the end of the string. And then we've got the string that goes back to the start of our life over here. And as you continue towards the end of your life, maybe it's over here, like way down the track, you're going to still carry along the weight of this string. So as you go along your life, the string or the rope starts to get a bit heavier, right? If we don't deal with all of the knots. Because as you go through life, all of these experiences I'm talking about that I mentioned before, sometimes they can create little knots in the rope, right? Little knots in the string. Something happened when you were a teenager, there's a knot there. Something happened when maybe you started dating, there's a knot there, right? Something happened in a relationship, um, you know, there's a knot. Something happened in business or your career, there's another knot. And so we go through our life and we start to have all these experiences. And sometimes we have positive experiences, which are great. And sometimes we have negative experiences, which are, they're also fine. But we need to learn how to resolve the emotional charge around the negative experience. Because if you have some negative experience that you could consider like a traumatic event, it's going to leave like an energetic or emotional imprint, which is essentially these energetic or emotional knots in the timeline of your life. And so if you imagine that there's all these knots, maybe there's five or six like really significant ones, and in the present moment, you haven't you haven't smoothed out those knots, you haven't untangled those knots. So if you can just imagine what it would be like to be carrying around a rope that has a lot of knots in it, as opposed to carrying around a rope that has no knots in it. And there's always going to be the events that happened, but the knots are more like the emotional charge or the suppressed emotion that is unresolved from the event. So what we can do is we can smooth out that rope or that string by resolving the past trauma or negative charge around these events. And when we do that, then it becomes a smooth rope, right? And with that smooth rope, it's a lot easier to carry on with your life because essentially you are not going to get caught. If you have knots in the rope and you're carrying it around, it's probably going to get caught on stuff. Maybe there's a little rock, or maybe something happens and it's going to get caught, and it's going to get caught, and it's going to get caught. And you can imagine these as your triggers. Every time you get triggered, right, it's because your rope is getting caught on something that happened in the past. And there's some unresolved pain or some unresolved emotion from the past, which means that if something happens in the present that is kind of similar to what happened in the past, or at least it kind of makes you feel the same way as something that happened in the past, you get triggered and your rope gets like stuck, right? So I hope that analogy makes sense. Now, how that relates to accessing higher states of consciousness is because you can imagine your consciousness as like your different emotional states, right? So your consciousness is essentially your awareness, and your awareness is always filtered through the emotional state that you're in. For example, if you're angry, you're in an angry state of consciousness, your experience of reality will be filtered through a looking glass of anger, and everything will be tinted with the color of anger, right? And that sometimes is not a pleasant experience to have. Whereas if you are in love, right? And then everything, and you're feeling love and you're feeling joy and you're feeling like this beautiful feeling of like warmth, and then everything is then filtered through that lens of love. And it's a whole different experience. So your perspective is changing. Same thing if it's fear or anxiety, right? If you're constantly looking through the glass of fear and anxiety, you're going to experience a certain kind of reality. You're going to have a certain kind of perspective. And if you are in a state of peace and calm, same thing, different experience, right? So this is the levels of consciousness are essentially your different emotional states. And that goes all the way from like guilt and shame and fear and anger. And then it starts to move up to, pride and courage are a little bit higher. And then you go up even higher, and it's acceptance, and it's love, and it's compassion, and it's understanding. So just to clarify exactly what the higher states of consciousness are, or what are these higher frequencies that people talk about? Higher states of consciousness and higher frequencies are essentially higher emotional states. And those higher emotional states are things like love and peace and joy and bliss. And so the path up into the higher states of consciousness is through a resolution or an acceptance of the lower states, the lower states being the shame, the guilt, the anger, the resentment, the frustration. So what we need to do, all of those things that I just mentioned there, the negative experiences and the lower states of consciousness, they're all going to be associated with these knots that you have in your life. And so when you bring the way that you access a higher state of consciousness is you bring, because a higher state is always going to like clear out the lower state. An example of this is with something like fear and courage. If you've got the fear over here, this lower state of consciousness, but then you've got the courage over here, which is a little bit higher. And if you're facing a fearful experience or there's something that you're feeling afraid of, maybe it's a fear of failure, fear of judgment, all that kind of stuff. If you start to embody courage and you just take action and you move through your fears, you get to the other side and you realize, oh, that wasn't that bad. Or if you're in this state of anger and you're just totally like angry at the world or angry at someone or frustrated at someone, and you don't want to be feeling that way, you want to feel calmer, more at peace, then acceptance and forgiveness, which is a higher state, like this state of accepting something, is a lot higher than being angry at something. And so when you can come into bring acceptance to anger or forgiveness to anger, very similar things, then the anger can resolve itself. When you forgive or when you accept, the anger goes away. So the lower states, we need to learn how to process them, unravel them, resolve them, untangle these emotional knots that are keeping us stuck. And the best way to do that is to become aware that there is a higher path that you can take, and that when you do take that higher path, it will like dissolve and untangle all of the knots. Now, the problem that people have with taking the higher path is their own ego and their own way of thinking about things. I've talked to hundreds of people about this kind of stuff. And um, so fear, right? Sometimes it's very uncomfortable to be courageous. It's very uncomfortable to be courageous. And so sometimes people don't want to do that because it's actually safer for them to just stay without action and in fear. But you see, there's a paradox because that's then going to perpetuate more fear and they're never going to get over it. Whereas when you do the courage, then the courage helps you get over it, right? Helps you get over the fear. But the courage is actually the more uncomfortable thing, and the fear is actually the more comfortable thing. So what you have to do is you have to transcend yourself. You have to get over yourself and choose that higher path, even though it might be uncomfortable. Same thing with anger and frustration and resentment at people, right? You might have a lack of trust, or someone may have hurt you, and that maybe makes you angry. When you learn how to forgive and accept them, then you can essentially let go of the anger. But sometimes people don't want to forgive because they're like, fuck that person, right? Like, and the ego is like, I'm not forgiving them. They did something wrong to me, right? But the longer that you hold on to that anger and that resentment and that frustration, you're drinking the poison yourself. They're just probably living their life. They might not even be thinking about you, but you're so angry and you're so like frustrated and it's all boiling up. And so the longer that you hold on to that, the more that you suffer. But sometimes that suffering, we feel like it's justified. So we stay in it when we don't need to. We could choose the path of forgiveness and acceptance, and that would lead us closer to love and this beautiful state of like wholeness and oneness. But instead, we choose to just be these isolated like individuals who want to just like justify the reasons why we're angry, when all we're really doing is prolonging our own suffering. So that's a whole bunch of theory around this concept. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do is literally draw on your paper in front of you a line, and you can mark one end of the line as birth, and you can mark the other end of the line as now. So I want you to do this now. We're going to go through a little exercise, and then I'm going to teach you guys a little bit of meditation. We're going to do a little practice to end the session today. But I want you guys to walk away with some clarity on what these issues are for you, what the issues are that could be holding you back from higher states of consciousness. So what are the emotional events, the significant events, the traumatic events that are like knots in the rope of your life? So write down, draw just a line. On one end, you've got the now. On the other end, you've got the birth, the start of your life. And just go back and start to like, maybe you can write 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, however old you are. Just put some little notches in there at your age, or your ages, the different ages you went through. And then just start to make little notches for the significant events that you can remember. And for this practice, just go with the first thing that comes to your mind. Like, trust your intuition on this, and just whatever significant memories or events come up for you, just write them down. Right? Maybe something happened when you were a 4-year-old. Maybe something happened when you were an 8-year-old. Maybe something happened when you were 11. Maybe something happened when you were 13. Maybe something happened when you were 16, right? Maybe something happened last year, right? So just go through the timeline and just mark down the different points in your life where there were some significant events that happened. And then you can mark down, like, what was that significant event? Maybe something happened with your parents. Maybe something happened with a partner. Maybe something happened at school. Um, those are usually the big ones. Mark down what happened, at what age, And then also, I want you to mark down what how you're currently feeling about that experience. So just check in with yourself and see if you are still holding any negative charge. And when I say negative charge, what I mean by that is what negative emotions are still associated with that event. And maybe there's none. And if there's none, then awesome, that's sweet. But just mark it down, right? And just what we're doing here is we're just kind of it's really self-reflection, right? We're reflecting on our life and we're reflecting on ourself and our experiences. And we're just checking in and asking ourselves, like, do I have any um, unresolved emotion from that? And the way that you'll know if you do is because like sometimes you can look back at your past and you can go, okay, no, I feel at peace about that. But sometimes you look back at your past and you go, I fucking can't believe that happened. Like what a shit show. Or and that you notice like there's a bit of negative charge around it. And maybe you still feel like ashamed about something that happened, or maybe you still feel guilty about something that happened, or something maybe you still feel angry about something that happened. All of that is okay as well. I'm not trying to demonize any emotions that you're feeling because that's not the way. Um, but I'm just helping to bring some awareness to the emotions, right? I always say in my coaching community, when I'm teaching meditation and teaching about emotions and stuff like this, teaching about your mindset and your thoughts, it's kind of like this two-prong approach. First, you need awareness, and secondly, you need acceptance. So even if there are things that you still feel guilty about or ashamed of or whatever, angry about, it's okay. You're allowed to feel that way. But what we want to do is we want to bring the awareness to that. And then the next step is to learn how to actually accept these parts of ourself. Because, like I said before, that's how you will start to access higher and higher states of consciousness when you have a very strong sense of self-acceptance. So maybe life didn't go the way that you planned. Maybe things didn't happen that were, great in your life. But the longer that you hold kind of um, any remorse or regret or contempt around those things that happen to you, the longer that you will kind of stay stuck in them. So we want to get the awareness of what the issue is. And then that's something that we can then practice acceptance on. So if there's any questions so far, I hope you guys are just like doing this practice as I'm talking and writing down the things. Um, this is also a practice that you can do later as well if you're just listening. But once you've got some events down, once you've got some experiences, once you've maybe highlighted a few areas where you still are holding on to negative charge and negative emotion, then from that point we can go, okay, cool. This is the area where I need to practice some acceptance. Right. Now, when I'm talking about acceptance, right, a word that people often say like, I want to learn how to let go. That's a big one. People are like, how do I let go? What does that look like to let go? And how do I practice letting go and moving on? That's something that people will often tell me. I want to let go. I want to move on. I want to be the best version of myself, right? So how do I do that? Acceptance. Acceptance is a very, very powerful way to let go. uh, Acceptance, forgiveness, these kinds of things, allowing yourself to feel. A lot of times people prolong their own suffering because they are in resistance to what they are feeling. So you look back on your life and you realize, well, maybe there is some guilt or maybe there is some anger. And then there's a resistance towards that. And it's like, I don't want to feel that. So the logical mind says, I don't want to feel that, right? And of course you don't. It's a negative experience. It's a negative emotion. Of course you don't want to feel that. But the people getting confused because they try to think that if I just ignore it or avoid it or push it away or resist it and just say no to it, that's how I'm gonna get over it. But that never works because what that essentially is suppression. You're just suppressing it and it will just pop its head up later, right? The more that you suppress stuff, the more that you just basically keep knots in your rope. And another more kind of visual explanation of what happens when you suppress emotions is kind of like you pack a bomb. And if you keep like this, emotions gets packed in, packed in, packed in, suppressed, suppressed, suppressed. Eventually, boom, you just blow up, right? And that comes out in like outlashes, anger, like yelling, like all this kind of stuff that you don't really want to be doing. That's happening because you've got so much suppressed emotion, right? And it just ends up blowing up, right? So that's a more extreme case. But if you're blowing up like that, um, but the other case is like you just end up carrying around this heavy, heavy rope that's getting stuck on everything. So at this point, we've kind of explained, um, you know, how to identify like some events in our life that maybe we're still holding negative emotions around. We've explained that those negative emotions keep us kind of bogged down, keep us like stuck. And the way that we can overcome those negative emotions and to find some personal freedom is and access these higher states of consciousness is by becoming aware that there is a higher path and learning how to take it, right? Which means to choose something that might not actually be very comfortable for you, right? And to choose a path of acceptance, to choose the higher path, to choose the path of courage, to choose the path of forgiveness, to choose the path of love, as opposed to staying stuck in the cycle of fear, anger, resentment, all that kind of stuff, right? So you've hopefully written down there's a line starting at the start of your life and ending in the now. Maybe there's some events that you've identified. Maybe there's some emotions attached to those events that made you feel a certain way. And now what we're going to do to finish off the session is we're just going to do a little meditation on acceptance. Right? So I'm going to guide the meditation. And you can do this in your own time as well. We'll kind of wrap it up after this meditation. But this is something that you can practice on a day-to-day basis. If you want more help with this, then my coaching community is a great place to start. There's a whole bunch of information on Instagram. There's my website you can go and check out. You can send me a message if you're interested in learning more about that. I'll put a link under the description of this video as well with some just information so you can check it out. You can apply for coaching through the website. You can message me on Instagram, all that kind of stuff. Um, because sometimes when we do this work, you come to an event like an event like this, or one of these classes, or maybe you watch the replay on YouTube and you go, "Yep, sweet, that was helpful." And we'll do some meditation now, and you're going to have an experience where you feel some of that emotion like moving and shifting a little bit. And you're like, wow, that was awesome, sweet. And then you never do it again, or you go, next week maybe you don't show up. Life happens. There's no one to keep you accountable, and so you just end up getting sucked back into the same cycle. That's one of the good things about having some guidance, having some accountability, like a coach or something like that, a community that you can be a part of, is that you can have accountability to show up. Because with this work, it's about showing up. It's about consistently like clearing out the suppressed emotions and rewiring yourself in a different mindset, like rewiring your brain, reprogramming your mind to start to think about things differently and see through a different lens, right? To stop seeing through the lens of like fear and anxiety and anger and frustration, and to start seeing through a different lens, one that is a lot more accepting, one that is a lot more trusting, one that is a lot more loving. And when you do that, your whole perspective on reality will change. But it doesn't actually happen. I want to be totally transparent. It might happen for a brief moment in a class like this, but to sustain that over the long term, you really need accountability and consistency, right? It's like you got to do the work. And that means showing up for yourself. And like I said at the very start of this call, I'm so grateful for you guys for showing up here, because I honestly believe that when we do the work on ourselves and when we become the best version of ourselves, that is when we are really contributing to the world in the most positive way. We're giving our best self to our family, to our relationships, to our work, to our community, and just to the world at large. You start to shift your energy, your emotion. You start to embody these higher frequencies and these higher states of consciousness, and you end up walking around in life as a beacon of light for other people. And that's the most beautiful thing that you could ever do for anyone. Right. And if you want to have, you want to have a healthy life, you want to pass things on to your kids, you don't want to pass things down the family line, you don't want to, project your stuff onto other people at work or, all of that stuff. You don't want to, destroy your relationships or yeah, really just struggle with any career progression. Like the best thing that you can do is work on yourself, become a better version of you, because that light will then radiate out into all the other areas of your life. So, with all that being said, let's just finish this session off with a 5 minute meditation on acceptance. So, when you're ready, you can close down your eyes. If you do have any questions or anything after this session, then you can pop them into the um, comments of the YouTube video, or you can just send me a message on Instagram. I'm always open to chat. But before you do that, let's just close down our eyes. Take a deep breath in and relax. So to start this meditation, I just invite you to get very comfortable with wherever you are. Maybe you're sitting down in a chair. If you are, just straighten your back, relax back into the chair. Or wherever you are, just make sure that you're comfortable. That's important. Take another deep breath in. Deep breath in, down into the belly, opening up. And then as you exhale, you let go. So on the inhale, you take a nice deep breath in and you feel your body opening through that midsection. Shoulders go back, belly has a rise as you breathe in. And then everything softens and relaxes as you breathe out. And just continue to find a natural rhythm of breathing, bringing your attention and your awareness to the inhale and the exhale. And just notice how with each breath, your body becomes a little calmer, your mind becomes a little calmer. And as you hold your awareness on your inhale and your exhale, everything starts to slow down. And then what we're going to do is just pick one of those memories or significant events that happened to you. Just choose the one that feels the biggest or the most relevant for you right now. And trust your intuition on that. So you can pick that memory and then imagine it in your mind. How old were you? What happened? Who was there? How did you feel? Take a deep breath in and relax. And just start to become aware of everything that you felt. Start to become aware of everything you were thinking. Become aware of that whole narrative or story that you have about that event. And this is simply just an awareness without any judgment, an awareness without any attachment. Understand that whatever you felt or whatever you thought or whatever you experienced, it's okay. And we're just developing a very gentle awareness of it. So try not to get lost in the story too much. It's more that you are observing it, becoming a witness of it. Allow yourself the space to feel any of those feelings. Allow yourself the space to process anything that needs to be processed around that memory. And you don't really need to do this consciously, but as long as you hold your awareness in the present moment and just allow your subconscious mind to kind of do its thing. And the way that you do that is just by letting go of the need to interfere. So you just let it be. You just accept whatever happened. You accept whatever you were feeling. You accept whatever you were thinking. You accept yourself. You accept the other people that were in that experience with you. You just allow yourself to come into a nice, harmonious state of acceptance. Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe out, let it all go. Let the tension drop away. Let any stress or pressure drop away. Take another deep breath in. And then same thing on the exhale, really embody this energy of letting go. So you let go, soften your body, soften your mind. And we'll take one more deep breath in together, breathing in. And letting it all go on the exhale. And we'll finish off with a quick body scan. So just bring your awareness to the very top of your head and then allow your awareness to gently move down from the top of your head to your forehead, softening your forehead as your awareness comes down through your temples, around your eyes, softening all the little muscles in your face as you bring your awareness down through your jaw, unclenching your jaw, relaxing your jaw, allowing your awareness to flow down your shoulders, relax your chest, relax the back of your neck. Your awareness flows down through your midsection. Relax your belly, relax your back, relax your arms, relax your hips. Your awareness flowing down through your hips into your legs, everything becoming nice and relaxed. And then your awareness will flow down through your legs, down to the bottom of your feet. Your knees become relaxed, your calves become relaxed, your feet become relaxed, and even your little toes become relaxed. And just take a moment to embrace this nice, calm, and relaxed feeling. When you're ready, you can take another breath in. And once again, letting it all go. You can return to your natural rhythm of breathing very slowly and gently, bringing your awareness back into your body, back into the room, back into yourself. Take another deep breath. Big breath in and big breath out. And then when you're ready, you can open up your eyes. No need to rush to do anything now. Just become familiar with this calm feeling that's present in your body now. And know that this feeling is always available to you. You can access this calm and peaceful state of consciousness pretty much whenever you want with practice. And just enjoy it. Enjoy the feeling. Trust that you can feel this way and that this way is generally a lot more pleasant than some of the other ways of feeling that we get sucked into throughout our day. So, once again, thank you for being here and thank you for trusting me to guide you through this process. And be intentional with the rest of your day today. See if you can allow this energy of calm and peace to radiate through the rest of your day as well. And then if you would like some more help, just reach out. Send me a message on Instagram. Send me uh, put a comment under the YouTube videos, or just go and have a look at my website, apply for some coaching if you want to. We have a beautiful community, lots of very supportive people. We're catching up every week, diving deep into some of these topics and really working on overcoming some of the struggles that we face so that we can become that best version of ourselves, that most calm, peaceful, happy, confident, content version of ourselves. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can always reach out via Instagram or on my website. Um, but yeah, that's it for today. Thank you for being here, and I will see you guys next week at 7 a.m. on Wednesday. Have a good day. Bye.